Preemption was also the goal behind the mass electronic surveillance established by the National Security Agency, NSA, and other U.S. intelligence agencies after passage of the Patriot Act of 2001. Today, counterterrorism is a major industry, with counterterrorism units embedded in more than 1,000 federal government organizations, as well as in state and municipal police departments, and roughly 2,000 private companies. Though America's counterterrorism apparatus ballooned after 9/11, U.S. counterterrorism first emerged in the 1970s in response to homegrown leftist guerrillas. Its development was deeply influenced by the Weather Underground and the Black Liberation Army, BLA, clandestine armed organizations that splintered off from the New Left and the Black Power movement, respectively, of the late 1960s and early 1970s. Violent conflicts between the United States and these political dissidents over issues of global power, racism, and economic inequality were the crucible in which the tactics, doctrine, and sprawling bureaucratic structures of counterterrorism were forged. Guerrillas and the State. This book will trace the origins of counterterrorism to violent conflicts in the Cold War era. This history will show how the U.S. war in Vietnam and police brutality, particularly directed against African American communities and political activists, motivated a small number of American leftist radicals to import strategies of clandestine urban guerrilla warfare from revolutionary anti-imperialist movements in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. It will also illustrate how U.S. leaders neglected to build lasting alternatives to the state violence, racism, and poverty that many liberals, leftists, and social scientists of the late 1960s identified as root causes of violent social conflict. For U.S. officials, the response to civil disorder and insurgency was to surveil, police, and incarcerate the crisis. American politics, already deeply punitive, grew even more so with President Richard Nixon's 1968 election on a law and order platform. The Nixon administration went on to lay much of the groundwork for the rise of mass incarceration that during the 1980s and 1990s made the United States one of the greatest jailers of its own people. FBI and White House officials developed what would become counterterrorism in the context of Nixon's law and order crackdown on the Black Power movement, the anti-war movement, and other social movements of the era. Counterterrorism and guerrilla insurgency were intimately connected from the start. Agents of the state and leftists influenced one another and studied one another. The sources that inform this book, including thousands of pages of declassified FBI documents and other government materials, Nixon White House tape recordings, and memoirs and oral histories of leftists and FBI personnel alike, are filled with their claims and conspiracy theories. To be clear, this book does not argue that militant leftists were responsible for the rise of counterterrorism, nor does it conclude that U.S. officials concocted counterterrorism as some sort of state conspiracy. Instead, it seeks to trace the ways that insurgents and state agents unintentionally goaded each other forward, how the state's preemptive tactics amplified leftist paranoia, just as guerrilla violence informed and sometimes helped legitimize the FBI and Nixon administration's frequently extra-legal programs. During the Nixon years from 1969 to 1974, young radicals detonated over 600 bombs inside the United States. Some government estimates put the number of bombings much higher, into the thousands. Teaching themselves explosives manufacturing from any number of how-to guides then circulating within the radical left, militants used bombs as a way of protesting the war in Vietnam and police violence in black communities. Many, if not most, hoped their actions would ignite a broader revolutionary uprising, bringing the violence of racism, imperialism, patriarchy, and capitalist exploitation to an end once and for all. A small number of young radicals took their commitment to revolutionary struggle further. Beginning in 1969, militant factions within